Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hello. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats. Good to see a few of you on already this morning. Do the quick warm-ups. Get things going this morning. Terrific Tuesday here, middle of the month. Quick intros as we go. Jason Witten's my name if you didn't already know. Most of you know, though. But if you're new, great to have you here. Thanks for joining. Give us a shout out in the chat. Let us know where you are, what you're up to. There's David. Morning, David. Brad's in the house as well. Brad, Chris is there. Morning, Tim. Good to see you guys. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining this morning. I hope you're all doing well for this terrific Tuesday, depending on where you are and what you're up to. Hey, listen, an interesting benchmark has happened in the world of our property market, folks. The property market has reached a bit of a pinnacle of value. Interesting times as we all are floating along in this world of capital growth and the property market at the moment. But pretty high benchmark for our property market. $11 trillion. $11 trillion. Pretty chunky number. And if you got a piece of that, that's awesome stuff. Jenna, good morning. How you doing? And Sonia, great to see you. Good shout outs. Yeah, $11 trillion, hey? $11 trillion in the market right now. And that's pretty amazing. 11 million dwellings going on. Not a lot of debt, actually. It's interesting when you have a look at the marketplace like this and you have a look at people's debt positions against their home values or real estate value. It's not as much as the, sometimes the media would have you believe, is it? At the end of the day, this is an interesting one. In Australia, certainly it's a little bit exacerbated, and probably in many places around the world. Most Aussies park a lot of their personal wealth in their homes, their housing. And that's one thing I wanted to sort of have a conversation about today, about how our younger people, our kids, young people can get first home buyers, can get into the market, or how do they get into the market? We're going to run a webinar tomorrow, actually, for all of the kids of mentoring, not the kids, probably the young investors of mentoring, the young property owners of mentoring. But this is an interesting one, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day,
the whole stock market, 3.2 trillion, plus the commercial property market, and the residential real estate market dwarfs that marketplace, right? The challenge is, how do you become in this world, in this space and place? How do you become a first home buyer? Because $11 trillion of market value, and some of the challenges out there for some of the young wannabe property owners, property investors, property first home buyers, a bit of a challenge, right? So, what's holding them back? What's causing them some grief? And, a lot of them caught in the world of what we might call a rent trap. I don't know about you. I've still got a couple of young adults at home. One of them left and then they came back saving a little bit of money to move again. One just bought their first home. They're staying around so they can put money into the first home. Now they didn't use the first homeowners grant actually, which is a good thing, but turned it into an investment. So rents are going up, skyrocketing. There's some challenges for first home buyers to get into the market. They're kind of on this hamster. We'll talk about that in a minute. Bad debt. What did we see the other day? Did anyone see the other day? I think it was 78 billion. Can't remember exactly what it was. I did it in one of my wealth coffee chats. $78 billion of HECS debt. So some of these challenges for our first home buyers are crazy, right? Saving a deposit. There's this kind of misnomer that you've got to save up 20%, right? So and sometimes for some of our young people, they're a bit, misunderstanding, the idea of getting into the market, maybe the lack of flexibility, lifestyle. They prefer to sort of enjoy experiences, which is completely fair, rather than put money into a house or whatever it might be. Don't understand, how to lend, LMI, waiting till the prices go down, all of these sorts of things. So that's a bit of a challenge what's going on for our young team, for our young first home buyers. And at the moment, the ratio of sort of the average income to the average property price is right up there, folks. Probably, according to some of the stats, pretty close to being some of the highest ratios we've had in a long time when it comes to the average wage, right? Now, it's interesting because we came off a bit of a low. Well, it was quite a low for quite a while, actually. But we came off a bit of a low when it comes to the ratio. And that's because interest rates were cheap and property prices, by and large, were lower for quite a while. But right now, we're up around the 35 to 40% mark. Heading towards the 40% mark when it comes to that ratio. Here's the challenge, folks. Call it 780K. The average property price, has gone from just under 600, so 580 to 780 in sort of 4 years. 4 years, okay. And that's been pretty hardcore for the first home buyer world. The challenge too is what else has happened? Does anyone know what else has happened? Not only has the general market national median house price gone through the roof, and there's cheaper units and stuff like that, secondhand, older places. You won't find many lower priced houses in major cities, probably find around the 600, 650 mark maybe, but they're pretty average places when it comes to, some of the growth and bits and pieces. But anyway, you get the point, right? The challenge is, rents are going up, the prices are going up, and the challenge of the ability to borrow has gone down. So our young'uns, our interest rates are up a little bit higher too. But the ability for our first home buyers to crack into, creating a deposit and being able to service a loan that they can use to buy is challenging, right? So that's the sort of thing they have to unlock. Yep, supply low, absolutely. Tim, it's especially brand new properties are low, right? The supply is extremely low when it comes to that type of stock. And back in the olden days, apartments, medium density and high density dwellings were often seen as less expensive alternatives to houses, standalone houses, right? So we go, right, you can buy a 2-bedroom unit for cheaper than a house, get in, start with a unit and then build up to a house, right? The challenge is, folks, that right now the world's upside down, tipsy-turvy. Because of the construction costs and some other issues around high density dwellings, the cost to build them is insane, and they're not a low price point anymore. The only ones that work are luxury type dwellings with lots and lots of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, the point is, it's going to take a long time for them to save a deposit, and you try and save a 20% deposit, and let's say, we start at 600, but 4 years later, the price is 800, and you're chasing your tail, like you're so it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. The lenders aren't very useful. There's a few of them around, and how do we crack the code? So this is an interesting one. If you've got any of your children or people in the first home space, then how do we get ahead of the game here? And there is a few opportunities. This is probably part of my wandering conversation this morning. There's opportunities for people to get into the market. They're not as widespread as they were 4 or 5 years ago, I can tell you that. But there's certainly government grants out there. There's free money. Who's up for some free money? And folks, if you're sitting there right now and you've got some kids, then maybe it's worth thinking about getting them on the property ladder if they've got some stable incomes and some jobs. Jeff, how are you, mate? Family gifting. We use this one really wisely, and developers and builders. There's lots of incentives going around when it comes to getting first home buyers into the market. So what's available, folks? This is pretty interesting, and I'm going to this is like a little bit of an advertorial, but an educational advertorial for tomorrow night. We're going to run a deep dive into the first home buyer stuff for the Kids of Mentoring. So if you're in coaching and mentoring program, the Portfolio Builder Lifetime Mentoring, then you should have received an invitation. If you haven't, give us a shout out in the Facebook group, and we can hook you up with the link. But if you want to come along and find out how you can help your kids, or if you're a first home buyer and you're in mentoring, then this is for you perfectly. Right. So there's across Australia, depending on where you live, depending on where you are right now, there are some grants available, cash grants between $10,000 and $30,000. Who knows? Put it in the chat for me if anyone knows where the highest cash grant is. Holy crikey. Well, you just blew me up then, Caroline. $50K for WA. Holy shitballs. There you go. When did they announce that? They must have just recently announced it, hey? $50,000. Holy moly. Yep, it was until a moment ago, Tim. $30K for Queensland, for sure, right? But yeah, WA not to be outdone. Well, interestingly enough, WA is the most affordable place right now as a ratio of. Oh, thanks, Caroline. I'll go track that down. Good work. WA as a ratio of median income to median house price is the most affordable place in Australia. WA's got the second highest incomes in Australia, median incomes. Where's the first highest median income in Australia, folks? most of you know this, I've asked this a few times. It's in Canberra. The politicians, they pay themselves well, right? Okay, so there's some free cash around, right? There's some free cash. There's first home guarantee deposit schemes where, depending on who you are, you can apply to the government, and the government can get in on guaranteeing. So either lending you the LMI. That's not free money though, but they'll lend you the LMI, or you can capitalise into the loan. There's actually, if you live in regional places, there's some extra boost for regional as well. You can use your super to save some deposit if you want to. That's not bad. If you got a few year horizon, instead of being taxed at, let's say, 30%, you can get taxed at 15%. You can save a bit more money in your super. You can apply to the government to become a investor in your home. I wouldn't do that if you've got equity. If mum and dad have got equity, or mum and dad, you're listening in, if you've got equity and you want to help your kids, stamp duty threshold. Here's the rub though, folks. Trying to buy a property under the stamp duty threshold in the States is almost not doable, almost friggin' impossible. Anyway, there you go. So there's a few things going on, some free cash, some grants, et cetera, et cetera. There's a few rules that apply, but how can you help your kids get into their first home? We're going to do that tomorrow night. If you're listening and you can't make it tomorrow night, here's an idea, right? So the best way, if there's equity floating around, let's say mum and dad have got equity, there's a lot of equity here. You've only got a small loan. Maybe there's zero debt on the mum and dad's home, principal place of residence, and then you've got an investment over here. So we need a 20% deposit there, and let's call that 150. And over here, this thing's worth $1 million, right? $1 million. Call it a mil, right? And we're buying this for, let's say, 750, whatever it is. So we need 150. So what you can do is you can secure that 20% deposit on paper for that property there, and technically, if you get it all sorted, you can borrow. You can basically borrow sort of 100% to get going here, right? So that's the first home. This is what is not a bad move. Now, why do we do that? Well, there's a few things. If you can get the zero stamp duty, let's say you're in Queensland and you get 30K in cash, right? Away you go. There might be some other grants that you could get, some other concessions and whatever. My preference is for you and your kids is if you can land it like this, and mum and dad can lend some of the family equity, then the cash, where do you get them to put their 30K in cash, folks? What do they do straight away as soon as they get in there? Where do they put their 30K in cash? Any savings? They might have 20K in savings that they saved up as well. I was NT. Thanks, Carolyn. All right, I'll check that out. I'll go back there and go, not WA, NT. Oh, there you go, 50 grand in NT. All right, we might have some people moving to NT. You never know. Who wants a home? Who wants a free house? You could probably get a free house in Northern Territory. All right, so where do you put your money? All right, you whack any savings, any government grants, anything into the offset, right? Offset account. As you go. Yep, boom, into their offset. Now, this is what also, if you can get like a 2-bedroom place or a 3-bedroom place. Now, there's a few rules, right? Depending on where you live in Australia, you have to move into it for 6 or 12 months, depending on the state and the rules. Okay. And there's a difference between the stamp duty concession and the first homeowners grant, folks, as you go. Now, I wouldn't repay mum and dad, Jeff, because this is the thing. Here's what happens. Over time, folks, and let's say over the next 5 years, this property goes up 20%. Okay, this one goes up. Okay, then you can get rid of that. You can get rid of that loan. That 20% is released. Okay, so the moment their property goes up 20%, then it just releases mum and dad's property. Away you go. No money has to change hands. and it's only limited to the deposit as well if you get the loan right. Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. So there's some ability there. So instead of them putting the cash into the deal, you use the equity and they get the cash for other things. The cash sits in their offset account. It's a buffer. It's teach them a few things, not to spend it on a holiday or whatever, right? Maybe they spend it on some furniture to house the place. Now, our kids, my son, before he turned it into investment because he didn't want to move in just yet, he had 3 mates lined up. So 3 mates lined up, and they were all going to rent with him, right? Okay. And the rent, the dollars, paid for the mortgage, made it positive cash flow. Okay, so we did the numbers. He was going to move in with his mates. He had 1 room, and they were going to share the other 2 rooms. And because he had a 3-bedroom townhouse, and it was going to be positive cash flow. He lived there. While he was there, he still had a room, hang out with his mates, etc., etc. So here's a few ideas anyway. So anyway, there you go, folks. Tomorrow night we're going to do a first home buyer night. If you're up for it, come along. Hopefully that was useful today. If you can't make it tomorrow, then let people know that first home buying is certainly something that they should get up to. If you haven't got your kids in the marketplace, I reckon probably not a bad idea if you can help them out if they're ready. Anyway, there you go. Rabbiting on now. That's it, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat's done and dusted for me today. Thanks for joining. Great to see you. Join us tomorrow. The property management team, Cass, will be on tomorrow, talking all things property management. So hopefully you can join us for that one. All right, folks, that's it. Take care. Bye for now. See ya.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcast.